Welcome back to the channel. My name is Joseph and today we're talking about Biomutant. I got actually my hands on this game just a little bit earlier. I got to start playing it from Friday and I put about slightly over 10 hours into the game so I can give you my hands-on impression what I thought works and doesn't work in this game. When I beat the game, I'll make sure I give you a full review so you have a better informed decision whether to buy this game or not, along with all the other reviews by the YouTubers. But let's get started with the pros of this game. I'll give you 5 pros and 5 cons. The first one being it has an absolutely beautiful world for you to explore and has a very vibrant color that I absolutely fell in love with automatically. There's something behind every corner in this game, whether it's a side quest, a building to explore, a puzzle to solve, or animals to tame. And the best thing is a lot of it you'll find only by exploring. It's not like a marker on the map like Assassin's Creed games. In general, you have to actually go out to those, have that curiosity fulfilled by going to all these places. And it's the best part of the game. Just to have the ability to go anywhere you want and explore at your own leisure is so much fun. And the second thing I thought that absolutely works is the journey to each world eater feels really cool because there's quests that are involved there and you have to get certain things, you have to put things together, you have to get certain mounts or mechs, and it's always a journey trying to get through hazardous kind of areas. It's always really fun, and when you get to the world eater you don't get disappointed either because the fights are actually pretty fun and there's a lot going on and sometimes something quite funny. I don't want to spoil anything. I've gotten to fight one world eater at this point and I kind of understand the structure they're going for. It's like Zelda going to each boss in Zelda in Breath of the Wild. It was a journey in itself and they're trying to replicate it here with very kind of inventive boss fights. The third thing I thought that absolutely works is there's a lot of choice when it comes to combat with various weapon types, gun types, powers and abilities for you to earn and unlock, mixing in specialized weapon moves. It's very fast and kinetic combat, and the powers and abilities are really fun to use and they change up the combat nicely. I can see, for example, a Psi Powers build will be really fun to play with because the Psi Powers are really fun and everything feels fun to use because they all have their own properties, and you got these cool John Woo dives that you can go into slow motion and you can activate your Wong Fu special attacks. I thought it was really well done, mixing in this kind of a very strong Devil May Cry and God of War and all these other inspirations. And the fourth thing I thought that works really well in this game, I've mentioned this on a Reddit post before and a lot of people are like, whoa, that's a high praise. It gives me very strong Jade Empire and Fable vibes with the choices you get to make and the way the story kind of is told. Also, Zelda Breath of the Wild definitely has that same setup with the 4 world eaters on the different parts of the map that you have to journey out to them. With the last thing I thought that absolutely works is the very in-depth crafting system. It really gives you the ability for flexibility and choosing your way to play. So along with all these things, I just think this game is basically like, hey, go have fun the way you want to have fun. You want to take over outposts, take over outposts. You want to go hunt down each of the world leaders, go do that. You want to do all the little things on the map and all the side quests, go do that. You're absolutely free to go about it in any way that you can. And this is where I'm absolutely enjoying the game. I got the same Immortal Phoenix Rising vibes from the Ubisoft game, except obviously no microtransactions, and it's not grindy like that game. It just feels right, so to say. But some of the cons are actually talking about combat again, is that the feedback you get during combat is not so much fun. You don't get a good sense of weight of your character, and sometimes when you get into certain attacks and you want to break animation to quickly dodge or parry, you don't really get a good feeling about when you can actually do it or when you should parry because there's no sound effects or anything that kind of supports some of these things, and sometimes the window for those are really short and you don't feel totally in control. I can't put my finger on it. It just doesn't feel as snappy or as satisfying as the games it tries to emulate, like I've mentioned before, like Zelda, Devil May Cry, or God of War. And the best example I can use right now, if you guys remember when Days Gone, we started getting gameplay close to release, the way they showed the game off, it had this kind of feeling with Deacon was kind of sliding on water and everything felt just slightly off the way he would hit with his melee weapon. And after the patch, it just felt more impactful. Well, it's the same thing in this game. I think it needs a patch, and there is a day one patch. and hopefully it's gonna make everything feel a little bit more impactful and a little bit more that you're attached to the world. It doesn't feel like you're kind of sliding about the world a little bit, that and animations and everything kind of go together a little bit tighter. And the second thing I thought wasn't that good is that there are a lot of reused assets. For example, you'll quickly realize that many outposts that you travel to and take over have exactly the same layout. Same looking, if not same, but same looking NPCs, and the buildings in the wild will also become very copy and paste. But I think we can forgive this particular point due to the size of the team that was working on this game. But you can definitely feel the AA productions of this game, because I don't think it detracts from the game, from the quality of the game, but it becomes very noticeable and it pulls you away a little bit from the world building. And the third thing, which to me I think is the biggest grief I have with this game, besides the combat not feeling as tight as I want, is the UI is not very intuitive, at least not to me. It feels like it needs to be fine-tuned to help you draw your eyes to important information. For example, the crafting menu looks just like the equipping your gear menu, and you can't lock items, so you sometimes sell items that you actually equipped on your character, and it's not always clear in the beginning where to get the crafting parts. There's so many subcategories of abilities scroll through, and you can always forget where something was in the beginning, so you just end up going through all these menus in over and over. Over 10 hours in the game, honestly, I'm still a little bit confused with the UI. I even had a little bit of trouble finding, I was like, what the hell is my ranged weapon? And then I realized you just had to switch over in the inventory menu when you're equipping your gear. You just had to switch over to the ranged weapons, and that was kind of really confusing me. And the idea that a lot of times you don't get a made ranged weapon, that you have to kind of assemble them together, it was a little bit confusing in the beginning. I'm still learning obviously the game, but as of now it's not my favorite thing. I have this issue with a lot of games, like God of War didn't have a very intuitive UI system. In some games it does detract a little bit, but again, it's not, I think the good overshadows the bad in this game. And the fourth thing I had a problem with is the story is not bad by any means, but it's not really engaging so far up to this point. And the dialogue choices you get are very old school in design. Like, you really don't really have any grasp of your consequences in the dialogue choice. You really don't know which way it's going to swing sometimes, or sometimes it's absolutely light or dark. It just kind of, I don't know, it just seems very basic. And if you're trying to play like a full dark or a full light path, it can also be kind of, you know, you don't even read the dialogue sometimes. I know that Stefan was talking about, the director was talking about, he didn't want people to skip past the dialogue, but at certain points I was kind of doing that, because I'm looking at the dialogue choices and everything's just so basic. And your character, by the way, doesn't talk. It's all narrated through like a Fable-like narrator that he was in the game, where the main character doesn't talk, but even the other characters, they talk in a made-up language, and you answer back through this narrator, so to say. And the last thing I had an issue with is, I won't talk about the performance in the way in terms of frame rate, because there were frame rate stutters and performance issues and a crash, but there is a day one patch, and I didn't have this day one patch when I was playing, but I thought the game needs a better way to explain the game's systems overall. I'm an old school gamer, and I'm patient enough to sit down and try to figure things out on my own, or read through the text again in the encyclopedia that they have there, but it doesn't mean everyone will or should, especially if you're trying to bring in a wider, more casual audience where this could be their first shot at a game like an action RPG. I think it needs to be a little better done, the tutorials, to kind of hand you off into this world so you're not confused. And that's despite the first couple hours being extremely guided for you, and I still felt that way. But it could just be me. I'll be interested to see what you guys feel, and if you felt different, if you thought the tutorial was good enough. To me, I felt it should have been just a little bit more clear. For example, it wasn't very clear that there's for example, a balloon in each outpost that you have to climb, and that's where you get your workbenches. It's sometimes not clear exactly how to fully craft your weapon. It's like it's something you have to kind of sit and figure out and tinker. And again, I don't mind doing it, but for other people it might be an issue, and they would want a little bit more guidance and a little bit more clear how things should be done. But so far, that's what I think of this game. I do think, like I said, the positives outweigh the negatives, and there's a lot to love in this game. I would love to hear from you guys once you get your hands on it to see what you think of it. And I would like for you to know down below if you're excited for this game, what class you're going to be playing with this game and when you start it up. And you guys, if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to subscribe down below, as I'll be covering a bunch of different games, upcoming games on this channel, as well as doing some tutorials and some helpful kind of guides for you as well with games like Biomutant. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and peace out.